By now, everyone has heard the cause of death for both Gene Hackman and his wife, and most people have accepted it and they have moved on. Now, others still think that something weird is going on. However, I believe what we've been told, but the story isn't necessarily over yet, because there's still some drama surrounding this story. For one, there was a will left behind, and there's some drama over where the money is going. Also, people are trying to block some of the information about this case from coming out. They're trying to block certain crime scene photos and videos from coming out. So we have that going on, and we'll unpack all of that in future videos. But for now, in order to paint a clearer picture here, I think we need to hear from the man who found Gene Hackman and his wife that day, because he had refused. He was refusing to speak out all of this time, but now he has broken his silence. And for those of you all who are interested in this case, I feel like you may be interested in hearing what he had to say about what he saw, what he discovered that day, and some of the guilt and the feelings that he's currently dealing with. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in, shall we? The personal contractor who found the lifeless bodies of Gene Hackman and his wife has broken his silence about the chilling discovery and the prolonged, agonizing process it took to enter the couple's home to check on their welfare. Jesse Kessler, age 52, who worked as Hackman's contractor and handyman for 16 years, was identified as one of the two local workers who uncovered the grim scene at the couple's mansion in Santa Fe, New Mexico on February 26th. In his first interview since the tragedy, Kessler revealed he had seen Hackman driving in the area just 3 months prior, appearing to be in good health. He told of his concern when he had not heard from the couple for weeks, and then his deep regret over the delay in finding the actor and his wife Betsy, admitting he's haunted by the thought that he could have saved them had he had acted sooner. I wish I'd gone in quicker. I might have been able to save Gene, or at least the dog, he says. To be honest, it was awful. It was one of the worst days of my life, and I've had some bad days. To see someone like that, he trailed off, with his voice quivering. I was hoping for a better outcome, that maybe they were out of town, and they just didn't tell anyone, or they got locked in the wine cellar by accident. I find it kind of interesting that he mentions that they might be locked in the wine cellar. Had they have been, were they locked in the wine cellar before? Is this something that happened to them before? Now, when we look at these stories, we often think of the victim. We often think of the victim's families. We haven't thought much about Jesse Kessler, the guy who had to walk in on this gruesome scene. The guy who found Gene and his wife. Imagine the trauma that goes along with that. Imagine the sleepless nights that go along with that. And he's currently battling with guilt because he feels like he should have done something sooner, that he could have done something sooner. And I think it's crazy that we have this contractor, this handyman that works for Gene, right? Who seems to be showing more guilt than Gene's own family. This guy just helped Gene work on his house. He wasn't a family member. He wasn't related. Yet he feels this deep guilt about not helping Gene sooner. Meanwhile, Gene has kids. Gene had a family that wasn't checking up on him. Now, another interesting detail is that he says that he saw Gene Hackman driving around just a couple of months ago. Driving around and in good health. So, I don't think that there's necessarily foul play involved here. I don't think that anyone necessarily killed Gene Hackman. I keep having to make myself clear about that. But I do think that some of the answers we were given, some of the details that have been provided, they're just not adding up. And that doesn't mean that there's a crazy conspiracy. I think it could mean that they just wanted to wrap this case up. They just wanted to go ahead and quickly get through with the investigation, quickly get through with the autopsy, chalk it up to this, say this caused the death, and move on. Because we've heard from a half a dozen people who were close to Gene, who had interacted with Gene in his final weeks and months alive. None of them, not a single person, mentions advanced Alzheimer's. Not a single person mentions advanced Alzheimer's. We've been led to believe that his Alzheimer's was so advanced that he didn't even recognize his wife lying unconscious, unalive on the floor. That his Alzheimer's was so advanced that he was walking around this house for a whole week while his wife had already passed away. But meanwhile, supposedly just a couple of months ago, this guy was out and about town in good health, driving himself around. So it really makes you wonder, how advanced was this Alzheimer's? Is this something that just struck him over the past couple of weeks or months? I don't get it. Because then one would have the question, well, why did Betsy leave him alone? On the day that we think Betsy died, Betsy was out running all types of errands. Did she just leave Gene alone with advanced Alzheimer's in the house? There's so many questions. And like I said, I don't think that there's necessarily anything shady going on here. I think that they rushed to give us answers, and that maybe there is a little more to this story. Not necessarily foul play, but just something else. Something's missing here. What happened with Gene Hackman? Did his health just fall off a cliff within the last few weeks? Because people were claiming that they were seeing him and talking to him and everything's fine. So I don't know, it's just really weird. But let's go forward. We actually have what is believed to be one of the last known photos of Gene Hackman. Now, they say that this was taken around March 2024. And you can see in this photo that Gene Hackman is driving around town. His wife isn't driving him. Someone else isn't driving him. No, Gene Hackman is coasting around town by himself, chilling, looking like he's deep in thought, contemplating something at the red light. So, I feel like we're getting such a mixed bag, the stories are so mixed up when it comes to Gene and his final years, months, and days on Earth. We're not getting a very clear picture here. We're getting told one thing, while other people tell us different things, while our eyes tell a different story. So once again, I think that maybe some of the reason why people are having such a hard time accepting the cause of death when it comes to this case is because the details are just so foggy. And what we've been told, by investigators, it does not line up with what we've been told by people who actually know Gene Hackman and were around him. So, someone dying at the age of 95, that's not that mysterious. But for you to say that he died from advanced Alzheimer's, and that this guy was walking around his home for a week and he was so mentally gone that he didn't even know what to do about his wife lying there. when people who work alongside of him and work for him are saying that he was in good health driving around not that long ago? It just all doesn't make sense. It would make better sense if we could hear from someone who, like a family member that was really close to him, but he wasn't that close to his family. If you listen to what his daughters have to say, and his kids were all saying that Gene was doing great, that Gene was going and doing yoga and Pilates and was extremely active at the age of 95. None of them mentioned Alzheimer's either. So where this came from, I just don't know. That's the biggest mystery for me. And I don't think that we're being lied to about it. I just want to know, like, when did this come about? When did this become a problem? Is this something that people are purposely not mentioning when they talk about how good Gene was doing? Is this something that was kept secret from them? Wouldn't you be able to tell? Well, let's just go ahead and go forward. Kessler, who runs Santa Fe-based Mud City Builders, had initially refused to comment on the public tragedy out of respect for the extremely private couple, a decision that he addressed in a printed statement to the media placed on his door on March 1st. But Kessler said the harrowing experience and the misinformation circulating about the case had taken a toll on him, prompting him to seek therapy and to set the record straight. As their general contractor, Kessler's company did everything for the couple, ranging from renovations, new construction, to maintenance, and he said he was in near constant communication with the Hackmans. He revealed that he last had contact with Betsy via email in the days leading up to her suspected time of death, but grew concerned when he didn't hear from either one of them for days on end. Initially, Kessler chalked it up to a possible miscommunication or an accident before he began fearing the worst and decided to contact law enforcement. For the first week, I thought maybe she was mad at me. I thought I had done something wrong, he said. We have other projects going on, and I thought I might have slipped and said, oh yeah, we are doing this for this other person. So I thought maybe I got caught. I thought maybe I was in trouble. He then checked in with his employee, Dwayne, who also said he thought the couple was angry at him after he hadn't heard from them either. It was probably in the last 3 days where I decided, okay, something's wrong, and we started the process to determine what the hell was going on. It wasn't like we were just up there and just stumbled across it, Kessler explained. It was a 2-week event that led up to us finally going in. We knew something was wrong. We were trying to get the process done correctly, not just walk on someone's property. Their efforts, however, would take longer than expected because of the red tape involving gaining entry to the home, such as working with law enforcement and trying to get in contact with members of the couple's family. We were having trouble getting hold of family members. It was taking too long, and finally I just couldn't wait anymore. I just said, the heck with it, I'm going in, Kessler said. I want to pause right there. So for days and days on end, this man was making an effort to find out what was wrong with Gene and his wife. Because he was in constant contact with Gene's wife about little things that he needed to fix and do on their property. Odd jobs that he needed to do around their house. You know, little fix-it-uppers, if you want to call it, right? And then out of nowhere, she stopped contacting him. So he knew something was wrong. But like he said, he can't just go walk up in their house. So he tried to do the right thing. He contacted family. Family wouldn't answer the phone. Family wouldn't get back to him. Because we know now that the family was not that close with Gene Hackman. So he tried that route. And then he tried calling 911. He tried talking to law enforcement. He tried talking to emergency services. And even they strung him along. They strung him along to the point that he had to take matters into his own hands and just go to that house himself. Now, if the family had gotten back to him earlier, if law enforcement had done something earlier, then maybe Gene would still be here. Maybe at the very least their dog would still be here. Who knows? We don't know how things would have went. But at the very least, there was someone out there actively making an effort to help. It sucks that someone was a handyman not related to the family. It sucks that this handyman showed more care and compassion for Betsy and Gene than their own family, showed more concern over them than law enforcement in the area. So he went to their home, took matters into his own hands, and I guess that's when he made the discovery. Let's go forward. Kessler drove up to the security gate on February 26th and said he was about to go through when a security guard named Ron, identified by law enforcement as Roland Lowe-Pagay, happened to pull up. He informed him he had decided to enter the house, and the security guard, who had also known Hackman and Betsy, joined him. Kessler confirmed that they only got a glimpse of Betsy, who was found dead on the bathroom floor, before Ron called the police, who later located Hackman's body in another room. Ron's panicked voice can be heard in audio of the 911 call, during which he described sensing something was wrong after peering through the windows of the house. "We did not enter. The door was open to the bathroom from outside. We looked in. She was close, and it was very obvious she was gone," Kessler said. "I was told to stay out of the house and not to go in there. I was hysterical. I pretty much lost it," Kessler said. He also phoned Dwayne to rush over to the scene. "I'd already called him and told him, 'You've got to get up here. There's something badly wrong.'" Upon arrival, Kessler and Dwayne found themselves answering questions from the police, who initially suspected a carbon monoxide leak, but Kessler, familiar with the house and its systems, said he knew that could not have been the cause. "Me and Dwayne were there dealing with the cops, telling them it's not carbon monoxide. We know this house," he said. "They did not want to listen to anything we had to say, and they had to find out themselves." He also described feeling tense after police began to look at him as a potential suspect. Kessler was never officially named a suspect, but explained he could sense investigators focusing on him, which added an overwhelming layer of stress. "It was pretty stressful," he said. "In the beginning, I had the police going through all my stuff, my phone, my computer. Yeah, I was the guy that knew something was badly wrong, and I'm the guy that found them," he explained. "And suddenly, it's like you're suspect number one. They never said that, but it's like, oh man, I'm the only one they're looking at right now." Still, Kessler remained supportive of the investigation and expressed relief that authorities were able to piece together what happened. "That's their job, and they have to figure stuff out, and thank God they figured it out," he said. Kessler, however, was shocked to learn Betsy's cause of death. Hackman, who had been suffering from Alzheimer's disease, is believed to have died about a week later from complications related to the illness. "I was initially thinking it was going to be poisoning, maybe even accidental poisoning like food poisoning or something like that," he said. That Betsy died of the rat disease, he said, "I never had that cross my mind." Kessler explained that while the illness is uncommon, he was aware it was more prevalent in Santa Fe due to its mice problem, particularly during wet years. "We've had mice bad, and in wet years it's really prevalent," he said. "The Native Americans around here have known about hantavirus for hundreds of years. The Native Americans had a saying that if you found a mouse on your blankets or your bedding, you burn your bedding." He went on to share stories he heard of people who had tragically died from the disease. "We were working on a job and sweeping mouse poop and pee, and a guy came into the job and got it, and he was dead in no time. And my mom was telling me another story about a family that all of them got it and all of them died, all three of them. It was like a husband, wife, and child. It's around, and man, this is a wake-up call for a lot of people. I deal with it constantly, and I don't even wear a mask, he said. It's everywhere. As for Hackman, Kessler admitted that he did not know the actor had Alzheimer's, especially after he had just seen him driving about 2 or 3 months earlier. And he was shocked to realize after the fact how quickly it must have progressed. It was just about 12 weeks ago, he said. That was the last time I saw him, and he was driving. And he waved at me. He knew exactly who I was. Although he hadn't seen the pair since then, Kessler said he still kept in touch with them and his wife via phone. We worked together for 16 years, and I've had nearly constant communication with them, he said. We'd communicate every couple of days. It's such a tragic story. I never thought I would be dealing with this, and I never thought we'd lose them both. I thought Gene would live to be 100 years old. But I was kind of preparing myself for the death, but never her. Even after he went into the house, he said he'd held on hope that they'd be okay. When asked if he was taking time off to process the tragedy, Kessler replied, I wish I could. I go out of town last weekend, but running a business is hard. Gene and Betsy were one of my clients, and I've got about 4 more clients, and I got to take care of them as well. I just want people to know that they were a very, very good couple. They were good people. And I think we should focus on who they were and what they did for the community. Both of them were fantastic people. Gene didn't do the Hollywood parties and stuff. That was not him. That was not them. And you're hearing a lot of information out there about tunnels under the house. That wasn't them. They weren't like that at all. They were good people. They kept to themselves. They were private, and I see why. Kessler had also paid tribute to Hackman and his wife in the message he pinned to his door expressing his respect for the couple and his decision not to speak to the media on the matter. This week, however, he expressed his desire to share more details in the future. There's so much misinformation out there that it's kind of really starting to get to me, he said. I'm going to be writing a book, and it's going to basically detail everything, exactly what happened. So he doubles down saying that I just saw this guy weeks ago, a couple of months ago. He knew exactly who I was. He waved at me. And he was driving around town in good health like nothing was wrong. So apparently, at some point within the last 10 weeks or so, I guess Gene Hackman's advanced Alzheimer's got so bad that he didn't even know where he was. He didn't know what to do as his wife lied on the ground in the home, not too far away from where they found Gene. It's just so hard to believe that a few weeks ago, Gene is in good health, riding around, waving at people, literally driving in the car by himself. And then a few weeks later, Gene is so just gone mentally that he lives in a home, in his home, for a week with his dead wife, lying on the floor, walking past her to use the bathroom, walking past her to get a glass of water. We know that he was not dehydrated. So for that week, it's not like Gene Hackman was lying in bed or lying on the ground or whatever. No, Gene Hackman was at the very least staying hydrated, getting something to drink. I didn't know that things could happen that quickly. That within 2 or 3 weeks, you go from everything's okay, you're riding around, driving yourself around town, waving at people, to, oh, you're so bad off that you're living out of your mind in your home with your dead wife and you don't even realize it. It's scary to think of. I honestly did not know that Alzheimer's could advance that quickly, right? But I guess it can. At least that's what we've been led to believe. But there's more details coming out. There's drama surrounding the will and where all of Gene's money is going to go. And those are details that we're going to unpack in future videos. For now, ring the notification bell so you can be notified of when those videos get uploaded. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop your thoughts and comments down below. Hit that thumbs up, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next video.